Welcome to Two Psychics. This is Michael Edley, evidential medium and mystic, discussing all things spiritual.
Hello, I'm Mary Amy of Two Psychics, an intuitive wisdom coach, tapping into your mystical life and sharing messages I receive about you.
What is up, everyone? So be here tonight. This is Michael Edley, psychic medium, back at the Jersey Shore after my trip from New York, which was a wonderful trip. Have a lot of exciting stories to tell, and I am here with my fantastic co-host, Mary Amy. What is up, Mary Amy?
Hi, how is everyone? Good evening. Here we are, Two Psychics, episode 71. It's about off-world, and we have a guest tonight, Craig Campobasso, and he's an author, filmmaker, and casting director. And we did not have a show last week. We had a very busy 2 weeks. We had a live event that we did in Cherry Hill, and then this week, Tuesday, we had 2 events in New York.
We've been busy. And then I got to explore the Sleepy Hollow graveyard. Have you ever been there? Since that's kind of your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I have been there.
Very interesting place.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize how large it was till I was about 2 hours in, and I only realized I saw about half of it. But pretty amazing. The history and the lineage that's there, and just seeing some of the old stonework around the graves, and like the embodiment of what I would say the journey into the spiritual realm. Some of the gravestones were just incredible. Some of the stonework and the art and the carvings, it was just pretty amazing. Seeing Rockefeller's tomb, which was looked like a little castle there, a stone castle, pretty incredible. Seeing Carnegie's gravestone, a lot of the World War I, World War II, Civil War veterans. So it's very interesting. I don't know if you saw any of the video, but as I was going around, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take everyone on a little bit of a journey through this graveyard if they haven't seen it, because it was so amazing and the energy was so amazing. And it's funny because I just heard, like, as I was going in, I heard different groups of school kids, and, it seems like a lot of people do tours through there, especially this time of year in October. And it's just funny, some of the preconceived notions and the perceptions that people have around, spiritual energy, ghosts, ghouls, and the whole Halloween thing kind of sensationalizes it. But I had a funny moment where I was standing in front of this ornate mausoleum, and I was just kind of keying in on the energy and what I was picking up, and and I was almost in a meditative state as I was walking through. And a large group of school kids comes walking up behind me, and they're up to the mausoleum. And the funny thing is, like, the tour guides start talking about it and telling you about, the families that resided in there. And it's interesting because I was picking up on a lot of the energy of, like, European settlers. And I would just, I had kind of, what I say, my volume knob was down, but psychically we're kind of always open and tuned in. And the more I would focus in on the mausoleum and the intricacies of it, different pieces of information would psychically come to me. So then I had one of the tour guides with the school kids, and he starts talking about who was in the mausoleum. That actually confirmed a lot of the psychic energy that was coming to me. But I found it funny hearing several of the kids go, I don't want to go in because I don't want anything to jump out, or I don't want anything to attach to me. And all I could think is, it's funny that people have some of these perceptions. And I think that's why it's important for us to be talking about what we talk about, do what we do. And I think show people that, if we work with our energy, we protect our energy, if we understand the energy that's internally being projected and the internal and the external energy that's being absorbed, we can understand that if there was a fear, you can protect yourself. If there's, but I think some of those, if there was ghosts residing in those mausoleums, they were probably more scared of the school kids than the school kids were of them. But yeah, very interesting place, a very interesting day, and just beautiful grounds.
There's a lot of history there. We went last Halloween, you know, in the, not on the actual day of Halloween, but
Hmm.
you go in there, the parking lots are all full, and there's this whole tour that they give you. Did you go down to where there was all these events going on? Did you make it down there?
Yeah, we were kind of all through, and then we went to a few different areas in town. So I wasn't part of any of the events that were going on in the graveyard itself. So we kind of did our own tour and explored, and it was kind of cool. We couldn't, we missed out on actually being able to get part of a tour. It was amazing the amount of people that were there. Like the stuff was sold by the time I got there, everything was sold out. So it was like, you're on your own. And I was like, all right, you know what? It's probably how it's meant to be. But the funny thing is I felt like I should be doing a tour there. I was like, oh, wow, just picking up, maybe bring a group of psychics, mediums, just energy workers through and see what we all pick up.
So it's interesting. I've never even considered this, the fact that you're a medium, and when you are in the presence of a cemetery or a location that there's a mausoleum and there's probably people have been buried there. Do you is it the same situation like what we had at the mediumship, where the
No, well, so
spirit comes forward, or
it's funny because I've had so many people like throughout yesterday and today, different people on my page, people like commenting on posts or people even messaging me. Hey, I just had a question for you. I saw you walk through the graveyard. Can you tell me a little bit about this? And it's just funny because it like really, it intrigues people. And I think it provokes some questions around it. The way I like to explain it is, we're always going to pick up on energy. So whether it's residual energy, energy of a space, energy of the environment. So that's one aspect of what we can kind of tune into, the energy of the realm. But in general, spirits aren't hanging around their deceased body. You know what I mean? There might be a period of time. No, I know. It's funny though. No, it's a common question, and I like to explain it, and I like to kind of give people the perspective of a medium. Most people, I would say, when they transition out of their physical body, usually they're going to be on their own, life review. They're on that journey of what was and what will be. And I don't necessarily think they want to hang around in the mausoleum or the graveyard. I mean, granted, okay, we have some variables and we could talk about certain things as like earthbound spirits, traumatic injury or passing that can sometimes hold, the soul to the body. I mean, there's a lot of variables around that we could do, that's definitely for its whole show in and of itself. But what I can say in general, so I'll answer your question to how I answered it to somebody on one of my posts is, can you connect to spirit in the graveyard? I mean, I can connect to spirit anywhere, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the bodies, the souls connected to the bodies that are in front of me. So, and I did have my volume knocked down because we were doing so much energy work. I was doing so much mediumship. And I mean, in the last 2 weeks between the events we had done, some small groups that I was a part of, and private readings, I probably read 50 to 60 people in the last 2 weeks. I mean, that's quite a bit of energy that I was putting out there, and working with. So when I was going through the graveyard, I literally had my volume knob kind of turned down. And as a psychic or a medium, we always have to learn to control that so we're not overwhelmed by the energy. And that's one thing we do. We learn to harness it. We learn to control it. But psychic energy, you're always going to kind of, you're always going to be able to tune into. You're always going to kind of pick up. But psychic energy, a lot different than the mediumship energy. Mediumship energy is we're basically, we're putting out a lot more energy. With that, where like, so as a medium, I'm retrieving energy. I'm retrieving energy from the spirit realm, and we're working in a two-way link, well, a three-way link, considering the sitter. And it's a little bit different of an energy cycle that you're dealing with. So where psychic energy, you're almost, I would say you're kind of absorbing it in a sense, because if you allow it to permeate through you, and you get a lot of information from that. So it's a little bit different of an energy read when you're working with psychic energy versus mediumship energy. And obviously, psychic energy is the foundation of mediumship, but they're when you start doing mediumship in a way that I'm doing evidential mediumship, you're really working with two different energy fields. You know, you've built upon the psychic energy, but you're working in a different energy field with mediumship. And unless I sit there and focus and I really try to open and draw spirit into me, I don't have spirits jumping out. You know, they could be present, they could be there, but I can tune them out. Now, so an incident I did have, I'll share with you the little piece of information. When I filmed around Carnegie, you know, so Andrew Carnegie, and the funny thing was, I was looking for this elaborate mausoleum or, you know, stonework, and it was just a small cross. And it was, well, not small. I mean, it was still probably 6-7 feet high, and it was ornate and carved. But, you know, they had the cross, and then they had his tombstone and his wife's tombstone. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to try to connect, or, you know, and I found it funny because in my mind, I'm going, wow, you know, maybe I should try talking to some of these historical people and see what they have to say. And I was like, no, you know, I'm tuned in. I don't want to kind of open my energetic field up right now. And, you know, walked away. So I did a little video there, and then I walked away. And about an hour later, I was coming back, and I was just drawn back into it. And the funny thing is, I started thinking about different aspects of Carnegie's life. And there, you know, you can kind of go down a conspiracy rabbit hole with him, you know, and there's lots of people that loved him, lots of people that hated him. And he put a lot of money out there. But they said, you know, on the back end, if you don't know about Carnegie, they said there were a lot of things politically and in the states that he manipulated, things in the school system, and like Rockefeller also, you know, a lot of things that he had manipulated, controlled, and harnessed. You know, we look at the pharmaceutical system, look at a lot of stuff that was based on oil and money. So Carnegie, there's some similar lineage. So some people loved him, some people hated him, you know. And I had said, I was like, wow, I'm like, Andrew Carnegie, I'm like, it's very interesting. I could go down the rabbit hole with you. And I'm like, it would be very interesting to have a conversation with you. And I just kind of said that, you know, kind of in my mind, you know, out loud of my mind, you know, here my wife's kind of in the background, and she's like, look, there's a bench. You can sit there and you can talk to him. And she was just kidding around and had no idea I'd posed this question.
Oh my goodness.
And I literally felt his energy start pull into me. And it was like, it's not what people thought. And it was weird. I definitely could have opened up. And it's funny because people all the time ask me, you know, could you connect to this celebrity in spirit? Could you connect to this person? Could you connect to that person? And I usually don't go down that path because for me as an evidential medium, I want to connect to people that I don't know anything about. I want to show them the continuity of life exists because I can pull in validating information, you know, names, numbers, like you saw, you know, connecting to someone's husband, bringing in his name, bringing in significant dates connected to his wife, you know, things that pertain to the family that I knew nothing about. And you show the continuity of life exists. When you're connecting to celebrity or you're connecting to well-known, you know, historical people, there's a lot of information out there. And if you know a lot about them, it may be hard to, you know, to stay kind of on that even keel and see what are you projecting onto that or what are you receiving.
Right.
Now, I don't know a lot about Carnegie. I know some history and certain things I've read about him, but I don't know a lot of details. But what was very interesting is I literally felt his energy pull into me, and I started getting a lot of things that would normally tune me in, you know, would say, okay, I should start opening my volume knob. I'm receiving information. And I jotted down a couple things that just came to me really quick that I didn't know about him. And sure enough, I looked them up and they were all connected to him. And these are pieces of information that I had no idea about. So I was absolutely opening to his energy. And I would say as a soul, you know, kind of going through the spiritual realm, it may be fun. You know, you can be in many different places, you know, time and space has no effect on us. You know, he could be in different areas of the world if he wants to come into this realm. And I would say maybe he, you know, found it interesting that there was someone trying to connect to him at his gravesite and ask some questions. And it was almost as if he wanted to open the conversation of, you know, there's a lot of misnomers about me. There's a lot of misinformation and maybe I should clear the air a little bit. So it's funny. I probably could have sat there for an hour or two and had a pretty in-depth, intricate conversation with him. I chose not to because we were on time constraints. But the funny thing is, to make a long story short, yes, I most likely could connect to his energy. But a lot of that is on my part of kind of opening and trying to tune into that. And then being able to validate it with pieces of information that I didn't know about him that I was receiving in that energetic connection that I, you know, kind of jotted down. And I was like, oh, wow. And, you know, it was just, it was an interesting, you know, it was an interesting moment. You know, I mean, I have had, so, and I'll, just to share, kind of to take this off a little bit into another direction, I've done readings for people that have been connected to famous people, you know, like the second cousin, some, you know, a grandchild of someone. I've actually read for people that were connected. There's been several people that have been connected to famous people. And the interesting thing is, in those readings, they were the only points that I would have really, you know, crazy information about someone famous or someone historical that would come into the reading. And it was evidence that I knew nothing about that was able to validate, you know, their loved one is there. And it wasn't until I brought that information through, started, you know, talking to the sitter, my sitter, about it, and they would confirm, wow, you know, it's kind of crazy. I didn't know if so and so was going to come up, but, you know, that was my great uncle. And in the back of my mind, when I was coming here, I just asked myself, and I asked him, you know, would you come through? And so I've had weird things like that happen, but it's not something that I go out of my way to try to talk about or try to connect to.
Okay. I really want to talk further about this, but we're going to run out of time because our guest is coming on in a few minutes. And I want to also talk about our events after, I guess, we have this interview. I did, for myself, have a rude awakening, an experience I'm not going to do again, which is after you do 2 events one day, you're very tired.
Yeah, it can be.
Yesterday, I go out last night because I had a prior commitment to go out. I had a few drinks. I think because I was so open, I've never been hit that hard from drinking alcohol like I was this morning. It was, I can't even describe how awful I felt. And I don't know if it's, I've been eating less. It was all the psychic work we did on Tuesday. We had an event in the morning and then event at night, and I was tired and I go out and drank. It was a nightmare today. It was a nightmare for 2. So right now it's a miracle that I'm doing this, because this morning I was wobbly. I was taking electrolytes. I felt horrible. Okay, so
well, alcohol is called spirits, right? Alcohol, spirits. So there's 2 types of spirits. You know, we have the spiritual realm around us and the spiritual.
I don't really drink, so that might have been it too. I haven't drank in a long time. All right, he's going to come on, and I need to present him and talk about him. And you know, he's going to be on for 1 hour, and that's it. So the topic tonight is off-world. It's brief what I have to say about it, which is not on Earth, or it's another planet. So it's off-world is considered not on Earth, possibly another planet, in space, life beyond Earth, far away, cosmic. And this term originated in the 1940s, off-world. Planet means large bodies revolve around the sun and the solar system. Everyone knows that. It's also can be called off-world, off-planet, distant planet, exoplanets. Okay. I'm just going to present him, and then you can put in, you know, tell us any kind of information you have off planet. So who's our guest tonight? Well, this is pretty exciting. I purchased this book 4 years ago, I guess, 2021. And it's in many languages. The author is Craig Campobasso. He's also a filmmaker. Craig's mother, Marie Donna King Campobasso, I'm saying his name wrong, I know, told him from the time she was pregnant with him that she knew he would become a writer. He fulfilled the prophecy when he was 26, after he experienced a life-changing spiritual awakening. He has a four-part series, the Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga book series. It will soon be expanded into 7 fully illustrated volumes. His passion to write stories that provoke the reader to think, to raise their consciousness, to expand their mind about creation while still entertaining in the Hollywood tradition. Now, I'm so excited about this too, because I didn't realize he was the one who wrote, produced, and directed the short film Stranger at the Pentagon. And I know all about Valiant Thor, who is a extraterrestrial who came and spoke to the president of the time and had a room or space in the Pentagon and was trying to adapt some kind of peace with the United States. So he wrote and produced a short film about it. And I would love to hear about this aspect. He is or was friendly with Dr. Frank E. Strange's, and he's the man who told the story about this. After production, the short film collected accolades. In September 2014, it won Best Sci-Fi Film. Now, about this book has also been made in a documentary, and I watched it today. And if you are a lover or interested in extraterrestrials, UFOs, you have to see this because it goes through all the different types of extraterrestrials. And Lyrians, there's pictures in here, and it goes through Palladians, Greys, you name it, and it's in here.
A lot of work and research, it looks like, went into, to produce that. Yeah, amazing.
Okay, so Craig has appeared on many radio shows, including Coast to Coast AM. He's been a guest on the Open Minds talk show with Regina Meredith and Beyond Belief on Gaia. He has made a few appearances on the History Channel, Ancient Aliens, and so this best-selling book has been made into a documentary. He has a new book coming out, UFO Hotspot Compendium. I can't pronounce it again. There's
the compendium.
All the places to visit before you die or abducted. Now, if you want to see the short film, it's on the website strangeratthepentagon.com, and it's a few dollars. It's pretty exciting.
Give us the name of the latest book that you're holding.
This book is actually has been around. It was I'll tell you, hold on. This is from 2021. That's when I bought it. The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, the ultimate guide to Greys, reptilians, hybrids, and Nordics. And let me tell you, he is a starseed, and I'm a starseed. You're a starseed. I don't know if you know that. But it's exciting because in this film, the documentary that's based on this book, he not only talks about extraterrestrials, he talks about ascension, awakening, your higher self. He gives background on a lot of it about vibration, frequency, different kinds of angels, light beings, celestial beings. It's complex, and I have to watch it a few more times because I couldn't even get all the information. Some of it I already know, and some of it is all news to me, but it's fascinating. Do you have anything to say about Off Planet before Craig joins us?
No, I'm going to have a lot to say when he joins us, and a lot of questions. You know, the wheels are already turning, and I know you have a bunch to ask him also.
I can't wait. I'm excited. And so Craig is not only a filmmaker, author, he is also a casting director. And he has been casting films since he was, or in the film industry since he was a teenager. And that's his day job, I'm guessing, and this other work that he does. But
what I can say is I really appreciate and acknowledge, like, it looks like a lot of work, time, and energy. You know, a lot of research. Really looking. You know, as an evidential medium, I can appreciate people that are trying to look at things from an evidential, perspective. And it looks like he's gathered a lot of research. He's gathered a lot of evidence before he even delved into this, and that looks like a phenomenal book. I was reading a little bit about that today, and a little bit of the research that went into it, and him deciphering like these handwritten notes and descriptions, and kind of calculating and corroborating everything, that all the information to be able to put it into that book. And I'm curious to see how his journey started, and what led him to where he is now. So I think we have a lot of interesting questions we're going to have.
He also, he even has the 7 laws of philosophy. You shall not fear God, man, or nature, nor inflict pain on the God, man, or nature. It's a brilliant book. It's very exciting. And he's here already, so let's bring him out
Yeah. Let's not waste any time. Let's get
I know he's right there, so I want to hear from him. Hi.
I'm listening
Hey,
to
Greg,
you.
how are you?
Hey,
Pleasure
guys.
having you here with Two Psychics.
Yeah, how are ya?
We are good, and you are a fascinating person, I have to say. I'm normally not dumbfounded when I'm doing research of looking over all the information and seeing what went into a lot of the exploration of what you're doing. But man, like, you have put some time and energy into this. That's all I could say. And as an evidential medium, looking for the evidence, I appreciate you being an evidence-based researcher in what you're doing. Phenomenal work.
Yeah, I started researching. I had a major spiritual awakening with what I call universal master teachers when I was 26. Never thought about what was out there in the universe. I was like a regular valley guy, went to work, had fun. That was it. And all of a sudden, my whole life shifted and changed, and I began studying human contactee cases, right? Because I was starting to have my own contacts. And it just started blowing my mind. And then I started going in person and meeting these contactees and going and listening to just all of this incredible information. Then I started meeting ufologists, and I started going on cases, and it was just so fascinating to me, and I still do all of that to this day. So basically, the book is comprised of all of that research. In the back of the book, it says further reading. That is really the bibliography. So you will see where when these contacts were happening, throughout time, that everything was documented, and they, they would share, the contactees would share what they learned from the beings that were visiting them face to face, and they just wanted to share who they were with Earth. And what I usually found is those contactees were usually a star seed from where those beings came from.
That's interesting. That's a very interesting perspective. What I'm curious about now, were you going through a lot of research and just study and analyzation that you were like, you know what, I need to come up with I need to really put something together that has a little bit about everything that we're studying, all these different species we're learning about, and really create the almanac? Did you find this was like a missing link in the alien field, and you were like, I should put this together so someone has this encyclopedia of information that's needed? What was the goal?
I wish I can take the credit, but it was my book agent at the time. He knew, because of my previous books, the Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga, which is a 4-part book series. He knew how hooked in I was to all of these beings. And he said, look, I've come up with an idea for a book I want you to write. It's called The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. And he said, I can sell that book. He said, so write up a proposal. And not only did he sell the book within a few days, but I had signed the contracts by the end of that week. And I was starting on the book immediately. And it was my choice, because I really, what I found when I talked with people is how fearful they were of extraterrestrials. And so that's why, because a lot of my contacts were very higher intelligences, they were angelics, created beings, fully conscious human extraterrestrials as well, as among, other different looking, beings, that kind of thing. I mean, look, a being could look really, really ugly, but if its soul is good, you see the beauty in that being. And you know, a lot of times, like I did, you cry when you see and you're conversing with a created being. You'll sob for about 15 minutes because it's so beautiful. When I talk to my regular agent about Valiant Thor, because, you know, I did the whole Stranger at the Pentagon short film and was friends with Dr. Frank, she didn't know anything about extraterrestrial, and she started bawling her head off, and she goes, I can't believe how beautiful it is. I mean, she was already feeling the energy. So anyway, that's why I wanted to add in the Melchizedeks, the angelics, all of those types of things, so that people know that there is more protection on this planet than they realize, even though it seems grim, right?
Mhm.
That to stay focused, that while what you are doing here is to evolve your soul and learn through duality and use those tools to graduate to the next planet where you'll get a longer lifespan because you'll get to learn about different things and that type of stuff. Because a lot of the extraterrestrials, they live to be 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 years. Created beings live to be forever, but they can, after a certain period of time, they can change their appearance, but you still know that it's them. Right? I mean, can you imagine going through eternity being over and over again? Right. So I always found that was an interesting concept.
No, that's fascinating. Now, the one thing we like to get into here with Two Psychics, a lot of people know what you're doing now. A lot of people know about the books and the film and, you know, all that lineage. What I like to uncover a little bit, though, you know, I doing that research and hearing the story about your mother, and your mother prophetically knew you were going to be a writer, knew you were going
Yeah.
to create. So I'm curious about your childhood. I mean, you talk about, you know, this happening a little bit later in life, but I'm really curious about the early days and about mom. Like, was mom very prophetic, intuitive, psychic? Like, what was your childhood like, and what was that like? Did any of this stuff come to you at an early age, like through mom, or any type of
Um,
psychic abilities, or what was that lineage and history like?
it did, but it was more for her. I mean, she was one of the most loving beings you could ever meet. She loved children. She took care of children. That's what she did for a living.
Mm.
In fact, the children she babysat never cried when their parents brought them. They just ran into the house, right? And when their parents came to pick them up, they cried because they didn't want to leave, right? So that's what kind of mother she was. Um, I led a very happy childhood. I have two younger sisters. Everything was beautiful. I grew up naive. I didn't really know what was out there until I turned 18 and found Hollywood. Right? I was like, oh wow, look at this place. So
Opened up a whole new perspective.
it did, but I did have experiences when I was a child. I saw an angel in my bedroom, an astral angel. When I was about 10, I was taking a bath, and all of a sudden I went into this catatonic state, and I looked into the nozzle the water nozzle where I saw my image in it. And all of a sudden this energy came in and sucked my soul out, brought it into the middle of the universe, opened up the universe. I went inside, and all the questions we ask ourselves much later in life, who am I, where do I come from, all of these things went through my head, and then I zipped back into my body. And every time I had these experiences, I never discussed them with my mom or my parents. I think that there was probably some block on it because it was more from my own contemplation later on in life, that type of thing. But when I was a kid, I was a sensitive. I could see things moving around. And I saw them moving around me all the time, especially at bedtime. Right. So that was interesting. Now, my biological father, on the other hand, is an interesting thing. My mom married Father Lou Campobasso when I was one, and I never knew my biological father. But interestingly enough, when I started reading the ET Species Almanac, and the actual genealogist called me and said, "We're related." She wanted some info. I gave it to her, and I said, "Can you find my biological father?" She goes, "Oh yeah, I can find anyone." Well, she did, and she told me he had passed away, and she told me where he was buried across the street from Warner Brothers, where a lot of the celebrities are. And interestingly enough, his middle name was Warner, right? And so I said, I'm going to go down there tomorrow morning. And I went to the front desk and I said, "Can you tell me, do you have a name of the person who called to pick up his body?" And they looked in the computer and they did. It was a different last name than his. They came to the guy's name. They didn't have the contact number. Came home, looked him up on the internet. He lived around the corner from me. At that time, he was a 74-year-old man. And I got in contact with them, put my picture in, and said, "If you know Fred, please pass this along." A couple days later, I got a call from his son, and this man actually was my biological father's half brother. So I went to go meet his half brother and his son, who called me. He had 3 sons actually. And we sat around for 3 hours, and I said, "God, just tell me everything about." I don't even know I didn't even know what he looked like. I didn't even have a picture. So he filled in a lot of the blanks. But an hour into the conversation, he said, "Well, he said, not only are you look identical to your father, but he really loved airplanes, and he wanted to be in the Air Force. So he begged our mother, they had different fathers, to let him go into the Air Guard early before he was 18. Then they put him in the Air Force. And then he proceeded to tell me where he was stationed all over the place. And then he said, "Oh, and by the way, he was in Project Blue Book."
Oh, wow.
All right. Yeah. So my face fell because that was the last thing I ever expected to hear. Right. So everybody knows that, I write these books for MUFON, and I have like 7 published books now. But I'm a casting director also by trade. I put actors in movies. I've done it for well over 30 years. And then my uncle said, when he decided to leave the Air Force, he came back and he ultimately became the head of construction at Warner Brothers for film and television. So it's like in the DNA, right? Yeah. It's totally in the DNA. The other day, I went to get a Starbucks coffee. I always, they always say, "Hi, my name is Joe. What's yours?" I go, "Craig." They know me and they see me on camera. And I get up to the thing, and my biological father's name was Fred. I was talking to my uncle a while ago, and they said, "Hi, Fred," and then they put Fred on my coffee. So I thought that was cute.
That's interesting. Wow. So genetically, it was there. It was there, and
it was there.
Had to be uncovered. Yeah, it's interesting. Now I know Mary Amy, the wheels are turning, and she's got a lot of questions going down the alien rabbit hole. But I always like knowing a little bit of the lineage and the history, because it almost seems like intuitively you were kind of guided on this path.
Totally guided.
It just had to slowly unfold, and it did.
It totally did. Yeah. And it definitely was guided. And when I tried to do a misstep, the universe would correct it and put me back on the right trajectory. So
yeah, no, it's a good thing. When our soul is calling us, it will keep calling till we listen, right?
That's right. That's right.
I absolutely love this book. I got this back in 2021. So does my daughter. My youngest daughter does too. And I had my spiritual awakening. Well, I had a near-death experience, and I connected to the angelic realm as a toddler. And I always knew about angels.
Yeah.
And then I had more of an awakening in 2014. And I guess it was around 2020, I started doing different hosting shows and going down rabbit holes, and I started learning about star seeds and light codes and extraterrestrials, and I found this book, and I absolutely love it because it's really descriptive, and I sense it's so accurate because I'm also an experiencer contactee. Today I watched the documentary, and that is amazing. I'll watch it 100 times. No joke.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay. So my question is related to, I have a couple questions, because the other love I have is also about Valiant Thor. And
Yes.
I would love you to explain to everyone the background on Stranger in the Pentagon and Doctor Stranges. Is that how you say it? Stranges? Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. Valiant Thor.
That's Valiant Thor. This is one of the original pictures. Don, his vice commander, is looking straight into camera. Val is in side view there. Look how perfect his profile is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's a created being. He's an angelic.
Mm-hmm.
The blonde, her name is Jill. I think that she took that name when they came down just to do this thing at the Menger farm. And she is married to one of Val's other vice commanders named Zan, Z-A-N-N. So I met Dr. Frank, I think back in 2000, 2001. Some friends of his came in. My casting partner at the time introduced me to them, and they knew him and said, "Do you want to meet him?" And I said, "Yes." So I found myself the following week having lunch with him and his secretary, and I thought it was going to be a fan lunch, me being the big fan and that kind of thing. And we ended up just bonding immediately. And, he told me throughout the years how he's tried to get it off the ground and all of that. And I said, well, let's just sit down, and we did for a couple of years. And he would just tell me all of his stories about being with Val, being with the vice commanders, going and being on Victor 1 and his craft. And I think there's one thing there that has Victor 1 with blueprints on it, the poster. And going to the starship and just all of the things that he experienced and the things that Val had told him. And then Val would tell him things about me and things of that nature. But what I ultimately found out was that they were already a part of sort of my contact team, but I didn't know it. I didn't know that Valiant Thor was, but Teal, who is one of his vice commanders, she was coming to me in visions when I would meditate. You get a click at the back of your neck, and then all of a sudden they're staring at you, right? And she was in a powder blue uniform standing in front of Victor 1, just smiling like the stars up in the sky. I mean, it was amazing. And so once I connected with Dr. Frank, I realized that they had been there all along as part of my writing team as well, because I have a huge extraterrestrial writing team when I write that brings me all the imagery and all those things. I hear it, I see it, I feel it, I sense it.
So question, what is your process? So when you're writing, do you go into like a deep meditation? Do you have a series of things that you kind of open and channel, and then it's like, okay, it's going to happen today and I'm going to start writing, like a trance? Like, for as a medium, I would go into a trance state when I'm creating music or automated writing. What's that process like for you?
Well, it began with the original 3 master teachers, which expanded into more master teachers. But after a 2-year process of them waking me up and actually igniting my cells to my cosmic heritage, right? And then I began to see, I began contact with the Pleiadians, especially with a man named Tehran, who was like 7'7" with blonde hair, really long blonde hair. And so the main master teacher would say, I want you to sit and I want you to, write and write and write until you can write no more. And he said, don't stop, don't edit, just keep going. So back then, I didn't know what automatic writing was. I didn't know what channeling was. So I would just get a legal pad and I would write and write and write. And it was like reading a book. And some words I didn't know. Can you spell them? And they would spell them, and I would look it up in the dictionary and go, oh, that's a great word, you know. So so that's how it started. And I wrote, the first book I wrote was about all my experiences. And you know, of course it wasn't written very well because I really hadn't learned how to write yet. I go back and look at that book and go, oh my God, it's like I wrote it in junior high school, right? But it was still the feelings and all of that. And then when I was done with that, I went to Mount Shasta, and it was sort of my gift to myself to go there. I was staying in a large room above a garage at a friend's house, and it had a very high ceiling. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I left my body in my astral body and I floated up to the ceiling. And then my body split apart into male and female. And then I heard the voice of the I am that said, I am who you are, we are who you are to be what we are, me. And then it fused it back together. And then I went back into my body. But before that happened, when I was up there was a 12-inch glowing white snake on the bed, and it bit me right here, and my body twitched. And then I went up, and then that happened. So then the next morning, I thought, well, let me drive up to Panther Meadows and just meditate on it and see what all of that meant. You know, Mount Shasta is the place where the I am material was created by the Ballards, right? So with Saint Germain. So I drove up, did a beautiful meditation, and on the way down, there was a 6-inch black snake slithering across the road, and I ran it over and I killed it. And that's when I learned that what I was going to be talking about was duality, the light and the dark. I never even thought about the concept of duality ever, and how all of these tools that we use, our emotions and everything on a daily basis, helps us to move up and out of duality, to release the ego, and then to become a fully conscious being. You will still have an ego as a fully conscious being, but you now have the tools how to deal with everyone in an unconditional, loving manner. So it was just amazing to go through all of that and learn it.
I find it fascinating that you're so spiritual and insightful and connected to non-material, physical reality, I guess, worth. I mean, that's what I'm getting. And then you're in Hollywood.
I know. I know.
Opposite. It's opposite, right? You just
Totally the opposite. Yeah, I get a lot of producers and directors say, how do you stay so calm? I say, because what we're doing is not the be end all, right? You'll always get through whatever fire needs to be put out. You don't need to blow up and then get everybody else angry. And then, it's like the people at the top set the tone. So
it's true. It's very
yeah.
true. So you were talking about the Valiant Thor, but can you tell everyone a little bit of the story of Valiant Thor?
Sure.
Because I don't know how many people out there who are watching tonight or the recast know about who Valiant Thor was.
Well, I started with Dr. Frank having lunch, and then I went off. Sorry about that. So
okay, it's all good.
So anyway, so I sat with Dr. Frank. I wrote the script, and began trying to raise the money, and then Dr. Frank passed away. So I just put it aside, didn't think about it. His widow was terribly, she was in a state. And so I just thought, okay, we're just not going to end up making it, right? And then a few years later, I woke up and Teal's voice was in my head, and she said, it's time to make a short film. She said, I want you to do a crowdfunding campaign. I want you to call this person and this person and this person. And she said, you're going to make a little over $5,000. Don't worry about the rest. We will bring everything to you. And so that's exactly what I did. I made a little over 5,000. I called in producers I've worked with. I got a soundstage, a green screen, James Cameron's visual effects coordinator, a DP with a red camera, just everyone. If I asked for it, it appeared within a day. And I shot the film in 2 days, and then maybe a half a day for one little segment in the park. And and I had 82 visual effect shots, and I had to pay for those. So I had to do another crowdfunding campaign, and I think I made something like $9,000. And I approached a small company in, Arizona, and I said, this is what I have. Will you do it? And they said, yes. So people can watch it. It's on Amazon Prime, or you could go, it's on Vimeo, just like the E.T. Species Almanac documentaries on Vimeo. Or you could go to strangeratthepentagon.com and watch it there. I have all of Dr. Frank's books, all the posters, everything is there. Everything that people buy there goes towards making the feature film, which I'm gearing up now very quickly and very strongly. So if there's any millionaires out there listening, please contact me, because we're trying to raise that budget. So
Valiant Thor was in the Pentagon. Can you just?
He lived there. He lived there for 3 years. They do have Pentagon apartments down below. I think he was 3 stories down. And what he basically came with was a divine design to eliminate sickness, disease, how to prolong life, also to talk to them about atomics and the things that not only it was doing to the earth, but to interdimensional realities and to the planets in our solar system. And to talk to them about free energy and all those things. At the end of 3 years, the Eisenhower and Nixon were for him. And but it was all the other powers that be that rejected it, because they said it would put doctors, nurses, pharmaceutical companies, everyone out of business. So it all went back to money in the end. And if you remember Eisenhower's final address was talking about the dangers of the military-industrial complex, right? So you have a question, Michael?
No, well, I'm just curious. So all this new disclosure and everything that we're seeing currently go on, where do you see like new modern disclosure coming? Like, is our government going to finally say to us, okay, this is what's been going on. We've been keeping it hidden from the general public, or like, what do you see transpiring over these next few years?
Well, I think when I made Stranger at the Pentagon, that really helped a lot because it blew up worldwide. I mean, they were having screenings with like 500 people in Europe, all over the place, right? I did a lot of screenings here and they were packed, like packed to the gills just for a short film. But this is what I say. If you started covering this up way back in the Truman era, right? And then they started bringing people on board when UFOs were starting to be seen in the 50s. So they started making a lot of UFO movies and things like that. Then they started paying people to become these media people that came out and would debunk it, and they would say it was swamp gas, they would say it was this, and then they started doing cartoons and ridiculing it and making fun of it. So really the consciousness reverted that this is fake and this is not real. But then the day of the cell phone happened, and everybody's photographing them. Everyone's photographing extraterrestrials, they're photographing all different kinds of things. So everyone's minds now are very much wide open. I believe, and this is my belief, that when they started To the Stars, that was going to be our government's way with all the people that left the government and the CIA to go with Blink 182, what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
Oh yeah, I forget his name, but he's been pretty integral at releasing a lot of footage.
He's still going. He's still going strong, even though To the Stars disbanded. But the thing is that that's what they were trying to do, and then they sort of disbanded. But they were able to get the Tic Tac and the New York Times to see how the government reacted, and now they're seeing how other things that they release a little bit at a time. Chris Bledsoe, who's a friend of mine, he is very much watched by them because, he speaks to the lady who comes through time and gives messages. And you saw in the documentaries, he's in there talking about that. But now they're having they're going and they're having all these hearings and they're making headway. I'm a part of Hollywood Disclosure. So I'm always seeing Steve Bassett, hearing all of the latest that they're doing, especially with Danny Sheehan, who's an attorney who's representing Lou Elizondo and all that, because Lou's trying to release what he can without getting in trouble, right? So these things are getting released, but I don't think they're ever going to come out and say, I'm sorry, we lied. I think it's going to be through the people that are out there and all the whistleblowers. There's new whistleblowers all the time. People that are on their deathbed go to Stephen Greer and they take what they know, and he's able to release it once they've passed, right? So these things will definitely be out there, but I have been approached doing the Valiant Thor story by ex-CIA members who told me the story was true. A Secret Service man told me the story was true. I met two other women who were in their 15, 16 in the early 60s when Valiant Thor came back, that met Valiant Thor back then, and also met Valiant Thor with Dr. Frank as well. So, so there's a lot of things that are out there. I mean, a lot of people have met Valiant Thor throughout the years. He was very much accessible way back when, but he is not anymore, right? I mean, he is still here, but he's let's just say, you know, he's going to stay here until this world shifts over into becoming fully conscious, and we can start integrating and meeting other star nations and things of that nature. So, I mean, it's really a whole big sort of consciousness program that's going on. And Tehran, the Pleiadian, is also a part of that. So a lot of that is what the Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga books are about.
And I'm sure a lot has to do with them harnessing and controlling the technology that they can slowly release into society and have so much financial gain from it. Don't you think a lot of it is more so control and harnessing it versus we're worried about mass panic? I think it's more of a... They are,
and I can really see their side of it. I can really see that. You know, I say, I really want to tell the Valiant Thor story because Valiant Thor and Dr. Frank gave me the job to do it, right? But I'm saying I'm not doing it to go back to the past and say, look at what our horrible government did to us. I'm going to say, look at how far we've come and how we can now heal this situation and just move forward. Right?
Now, where do you think the balance falls with alien races wanting to connect and be open and have that line of communication versus world governments trying to control and harness it and trying to manipulate that? Do you find like a fine line? Is there where's the dividing line on that?
Well, throughout the years, a lot of human races contacted various governments and they wanted nothing to do with them. Or if gray races that are not fully conscious came, and if they said, we'll exchange land underground and let us abduct your derelicts of society, and we'll give you technology, then that's a different story, right? And there's been talk about that for a very long time. There's people who said that they've been in those places and, either escaped or somebody helped them escape or, something of that nature.
That's interesting.
Okay, this is off the conversation that you were just talking, but I have a question related to the disclosure. Is 3I Atlas part of the disclosure? Is that a comet or is that some kind of extraterrestrial ship?
Well, everyone's been asking me that question.
I'm sorry.
And no. And I'm glad you did because, I actually sent it. I proposed it to a psychic that I know who's very good. And she said that it's unmanned and she doesn't see anybody in there and that she doesn't feel anything about it. But what they're saying is that this ship is taking the same trajectory that it did on the Sumerian star maps 3,000 years ago to the date, right? And when I just kind of looked into it, I'll just get impressions. And if I don't get an impression, I don't talk about it. But my impression is that it's a mapping craft and all these little orbs come out and it's mapping everything. So maybe it comes around every 3,000 years and maps. Maybe there's AI in there that are being controlled because, in in the documentary, I forget exactly what they were called. There were beings who are high spirits who created circuitry bodies to travel in to see just how far the universe advanced. So if they were captured, they can't be killed and they can't extract anything from them. Right.
So it could potentially like a probe doing some type of reconnaissance.
Yes,
for whatever
exactly.
civilization it comes to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you saying that it's maybe a live ship, or we're talking about NBE, biologic entities?
Yes. Yeah. Is it the one with the eyes like this? The picture? Yeah. That's it. An
It was
NBE.
on your documentary. In your documentary.
Yeah. NBEs. And I think that it's a highly advanced AI craft. That's my personal opinion. That's what I felt. And they have, man, the technologies and things, you have the fully conscious extraterrestrials who have organic technology, which is mind-blowing. But then when you go to the celestial realm, the angelics, they even have a higher, more complex, unbelievable system. And then you have ultra terrestrials, and then you have what we would call archangels or paradise sons, which are actually what we would call God incarnate, right? Who rule and run the universes, right? From setting them up and doing what this particular universe is being created to learn. So, but they're not like something that that you worship, right? Because we're all a part of the same primordial atom. They cannot get that across, fast enough to everyone, that everyone is the same, even though you're at a different level. That's your learning level at that moment. But everyone will ultimately become the top, a paradise son. They'll be, everyone will ultimately become integrated and all of that. So, and it's a long, fun journey. And this is just one universe. They say there's 7 super universes and 700,000 local universes. So imagine how many places you could be at once.
It's pretty amazing when you think even like interdimensional, things moving interdimensional and not even needing spacecraft or, AI animated,
right.
Objects floating through space, through interstellar. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Now, we're seeing a lot recently of these underwater, whether they're saying there's these underwater observatories, they're seeing craft, moving, you see all the video coming out from the US Navy. We're seeing a lot of video from the Air Force, and you have some very high up officers and people acknowledging, hey, this is something we can't explain. How long have they been in our waters? Has this been eon? Has this been just way beyond mankind, and we're just now kind of uncovering it, or they're
since
just
the
making
beginning of
themselves
time? Since the beginning of time, and they can slip into the water without making a splash. Right? It's amazing. A friend of mine lived on Malibu Road with the house facing the ocean, and she told me she used to see craft coming in and out of the water frequently, right? And we all know that at some point, remember, they say they sort of found what they thought was a underwater base there in that sort of rim of Malibu there. These have been seen. They call them USO, underwater submerged. And so And a lot of people don't know is when they saw the original Tic Tacs, there was a giant mothership Tic Tac in the water below.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So.
And it's interesting. You look at like the Baltic structure, that stone structure that they can't explain, or they're starting to say, was that a fallen ancient alien craft? And just some
Right.
really interesting stuff. I'm fascinated by that aspect and perspective.
Yeah, well, we see in Aztec, in Egyptian, all of those things. They drew pictures
Yeah.
of the craft and them being inside the craft, the beings, and a lot of grays as well as humans that they drew.
Now, what are your thoughts? I mean, we're gonna be a little bit all over the place, but some of the elongated skulls, that they're finding in different historic sites. So, do you
Yes.
feel that ancient alien races were part of human culture? They were intermixed. Was there like a hybrid race that was living among us? Was there interbreeding? Like what's the deal with all the elongated skulls that we're finding in different cultures?
Well, I don't know where the origins came from, but two of the master teachers that woke me up had very elongated heads. Very elongated heads. I visited Peru. I was able to see all of the elongated head skulls there. We've seen them in archaeology attached to giant bodies as well. Yeah, we think back to Akhenaten. How did just somebody all of a sudden have this long head? Did they take him from birth? How they can elongate the skull, but this man had a very long skull, right? And I don't know if they ever found his remains, but it would be interesting to see if his skull was born that way or if it actually had the rings to where they were stretching his head out.
Yeah, where they wrapped it and tried to elongate
Because
it.
he could be a Syrian hybrid. They could have implanted in his mother Syrian genetics. And because remember, he is the first pharaoh that came out with the law of one, the God of one, and he was ridiculed for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, I would feel and sense that he was definitely a hybrid and came here, just for that, and was the father of Tutankhamun as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. A lot to be uncovered.
I know. On Victor 1, in all their ships, they have these things called history coin machines. So if you wanted to see a segment of history, you order it and it comes on a history coin and you put the coin in the machine and it will play exactly what happened, when and where, right? So I always say I would love to see that, because when this consciousness shifts over, we will get the true history of the earth.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Because we know what's being shown to us now is
Yeah.
missing a lot or has been manipulated quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder if the hidden civilization of Tartaria was actually extraterrestrials.
Could be. I mean, there's just there's so much out there, and it's just fascinating. I wish they would kind of do like a History Channel show on more extraterrestrial archaeology and things of that nature.
But isn't that part of keeping it under wraps so that people really don't know what's going on?
Well, I think also at this point that if somebody wanted to in one of those big things, but they all are in cahoots. Because I know the government does contact History Channel and ask them to do certain things, and they do it because the government pays for it. I mean, I did an interview with Steve Bassett, and I researched, I can't remember exactly how many, but I found that since like the 50s, that the government had paid for over 5,000 movies, because then they can inject what their agenda was, right? Yeah. And like Maverick, right? Maverick, and in a film like that, if it was partially financed by the government, I'm just saying if, would be to show the strength of America.
Right.
So they can slowly drip feed us the information they want, and then I guess they feel society won't be as disturbed or alarmed when full disclosure comes, or whatever.
Well, a major who was at the Pentagon at the time of Valiant War told me he never saw him, but he was always shown what room he worked in during the day, right? And he said that he was on an airplane, and he sat next to Michael Rennie, who played Klaatu in The Day the Earth Stood Still, which was done in 1952, and Valiant Thor showed up in 1957, right? And that he told him that the government financed the film. And if they were going to finance the film, they would want to know how the people would react to this human man coming to Earth. Now, I know from Dr. Frank that our government knew of Valiant Thor's arrival in the 30s. And they just didn't know. So did they do this for that purpose? I don't know. It's sort of this interesting factoid that could be factual or just could be coincidence.
What could be happening is, just like you were contacted and you have your sources and you came up with this book and you've had your own awakening, some of these people in leadership might be receiving some kind of communications as well. They're just not saying it. And then they're putting out either a film or preparation, or they have knowledge, and it could go either way. They could be finding out about it and then blocking it, or they could be finding out about it and helping with it. Like you're helping with it. This is in preparation for what's happening.
I'm really glad you brought up that point, because I would like people to know that there is also a very good part of the government that is working to help the people and struggling against the other part, right? And there was a CIA man who was being contacted, so he was very much into helping. And so they are, of course, they're going to contact those kinds of people as well. So, in the Chris Bledsoe case, in the back of the book, I took a picture of this being from his abduction, and in his backyard, it's in silhouette. And when we enlightened the photo, Chris sent it to his contacts in the government, and they said that they hadn't seen those beings since 1958. I found that extremely fascinating. But I did not get a malevolent vibe from these beings at all. I got a very good vibe, even though they look different. I mean, their legs stopped where our knees are. They had little short legs, long torsos, long neck, elongated head.
When these extraterrestrials communicate with you, are you actually seeing them in the physical reality? Are you closing your eyes seeing them? Are you seeing them in your third eye? I know it's personal what I'm asking you because it's a personal.
It could be anything. If I'm meditating and they want to pop in, they'll do that. When I write, they congregate, and I write every day. So I have no idea what I'm going to write every day. I've just finished writing. I'm finishing a third book that I haven't released. So I have two that I haven't released, and then I'm finishing this one. And I don't know what I'm going to write every day. It's not in my head. When I sit down, it just floods out. So
amazing.
So yeah. I think that can segue us into this next question is, what is in store for you? What's on the horizon over these next several months into the next several years ahead?
I'm getting the feature film Stranger at the Pentagon off the ground and going to make that film and get it out to the public, because people want this story. I mean, people write me every single day just wanting to see the feature film. Everything is done. I've got all the big producers on board. We've got everybody. Everything is set. All I need to do is raise the money. So again, millionaires out there. I brought the budget down to almost 13.5. So where it was at 32 before, because now with all the technology and everything that's going on, we can really do it now, still without compromising the film, and lower the budget and get it made.
That'd be fantastic. I would love to see it.
Yeah.
No,
me too.
So there's definitely a few more books brewing in there, and then we have feature film.
Yeah, 3 more books to my book series, right? The 4-part book series, which will go to 7. So there's 2 prequel books where you learn about all the characters you learned in books 1 through 4. You get to go and learn more about them. And then the 7th book brings everything back home here to Earth and what's going on Earth and in Agartha and all kinds of things like that. Brings all the characters to a close, so that at least you know where they are at the end of the book. And by the way, I illustrate all the books. And so the ones that are out there now are fully illustrated. I've redone all the illustrations for the new books. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just 1 book of all the illustrations, right, in color. And because they're fantastic. And, it'll be book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4. So everything will be in one place. And then I can try and keep the page numbers down and the price down for the books.
Oh, that's fantastic. Did you start as an artist first, or did you start seeing these images and channeling it? Or
I'm no artist. I'm a stick drawer. No, I have a wonderful artist in England. She does all the artwork. Yeah, she did a lot of the artwork for the documentary that you saw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
phenomenal artwork.
Yeah,
Craig, it's been a fascinating conversation. I mean, we could probably go for another couple hours talking.
We could just have me on again, and we'll go into more stuff, because there's always stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. Now, can you share with all our listeners, anyone that wants to follow along with what you're doing? Can you share a little bit of your contact information, the best place for them to follow you?
Yeah, you can. Well, that's my website for all my books and ET Almanac and the DVD of the documentary and stuff, Autobiography of an ET, and Stranger at the Pentagon there. If you want to follow me, you can subscribe on either of those websites. And you know, or you can email me through those websites as well.
All right, excellent. Anyone out there listening, if you want to follow along with what Craig is doing, if you're as intrigued as we are, we will have all Craig's links and his information so you can follow along to him, his social media, any of his books or films. And, you know, I hope you get the financing soon and you can get this major feature production started. And, you know, I think it'll bring a lot of light to the current topic of extraterrestrials, what's going on in this planet, and this awakening that's happening. And yeah, it's a phenomenal thing, and it's nice to see that you're at the forefront of it. And I think you're just going to keep making more breakthroughs and bring more insight and guidance to this topic.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I love doing it. I love doing it. So
I think it's great this film that you're doing, the next one, you know, the feature film, because it's countering the negative view of extraterrestrials, and it's bringing up the light, right? And the benevolent, not the malevolent, right?
Right.
What most of Hollywood has been is showing a really dark side, or actually, I mean, yes, there are some harsh extraterrestrials, but there's beautiful extraterrestrials as well.
There are, and that's really what the Hollywood Alliance is all about. It's all of us UFO people in there, you know, all the biggies, Stephen Bassett, you know, Danny Sheehan, Dan Harari. You know, we get together like about once a month. Even Thomas Jane, the actor, is part of the group. And, you know, he's a wonderful actor. And so what it does is we're all trying to make projects that are positive extraterrestrial based things. And we're all there to help each other.
No, it's a phenomenal thing. You're giving a full perspective and you're doing it in a very authentic way. So that's what we can appreciate. You know, you're really looking at all sides of this and you're trying to bring all perspectives to the forefront, you know, and not everyone's doing it in that way. You're doing it in a very authentic way. And you know, we have to honor that. That's why we were so excited, you know, when you agreed to come on to Two Psychics podcast.
I'm glad.
Mary Amy was jumping up and down.
You have no idea.
He's coming on. So no, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you're doing, and we appreciate you bringing that insight to us and our listeners. You know, it's been a fascinating conversation, and I can't wait to speak to you again on what else unfolds.
Definitely have me back. We'll talk longer.
Thank you so much.
No,
you are so welcome.
And again, any of our listeners that are out there that want to follow along with what Craig's doing, we will have all his information and links on our pages in our social media. And wherever you're watching this podcast, you will be able to find a way to check out Craig and what he's doing. And if there's any sponsors out there that want to help fulfill that budget and make his feature film happen, you know, there you go. We'll have the links
and the DVD.
Absolutely. Let's make that happen and bring it to the masses. Now, Craig, you're doing a great service to everyone out there, and I think, you know, this will definitely change the dynamics of how people perceive and look at the extraterrestrial phenomenon that's happening. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you guys so much. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Oh my gosh. That was like, I just had to keep interrupting because this was just, I didn't want to miss out. Now I have a question. Like, oh my God. No, this was amazing. He's amazing.
And what's cool is I think we got to have him talk about a few things that maybe you're not hearing from his perspective or his background and history of growing up. Because I think that's what all people, you know, don't always fine tune the details to see what led someone to the path they're on now. And that's what I find fascinating. You know, what led someone to want to dedicate their life to this and do it in such an authentic way. So I like hearing the story, you know, I like knowing like what was the what were in the details, and yeah, I think we got a lot out of them that maybe you don't hear, that you didn't hear on Guy, or you didn't hear on Ancient Aliens, but you heard it here on Two Psychics, which was really cool.
Well, because we also have real questions, like we are normal people, or regular people, two psychics, regular people, and I have so much invested in a lot of the things that he talks about or he writes about. So for me, I'm coming from a perspective of the outside and the inside. He's fascinating. Okay, everyone out there, what's happening? Well, next week we have a guest every Thursday for the next 4 weeks. Next week we have Dr. Marcia, and she is she's a doctor of acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and she's a special coach for trauma. And she's coming on next week. And then we have 3 other people, which you can find on our Facebook page, Two Psychics podcast. And I just want to mention, we had a lot of exciting things happen in the last 2 weeks. And I began tonight's episode mentioning that we had a live event mediumship Michael Edley put together in Cherry Hill, and he was phenomenal. We have some videos about that. And then we had Tuesday, we were in New York, and we did an event at the Pelham Manor Club, And
yes, we had a private gallery early on, and then a public gallery night.
There was orbs in a lot of the. I haven't downloaded all of the videos.
Okay.
The ones that your wife took, there's orbs in 3 or 4 picture, in 3 or 4 videos. I there must be some in yours as well. I don't know if you've looked at all the.
I haven't had. I've been going nonstop, so I haven't had a chance to check everything out, but I definitely will.
We had a great event at Anna Maria's Wine Bar in Rye, New York, and everyone talked splendidly about psychic readings and mediumship, and Stacy Schaefer joined us.
Yes. Yeah, it was good. We got, and I got to meet Stacy in person. She's a fabulous soul, and she brought great energy to what we were doing. So, Stacy, if you're listening, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you. But yeah, we got a lot of exciting guests coming up, and I'm excited to talk about a lot of the holistic, non-traditional methods of healing that we'll be discussing next week. And acupuncture, I find it fascinating working with the energetic meridian of the body, and it's going to be some good stuff. So you don't want to miss it.
Dr. Marcia is a book, and that's one of the reasons why she's coming on, is she's written a book, and she's a friend of mine. And I can't remember off the top of my head the other upcoming guests, but we will be mentioning them next week, and you can find it on our podcast. If you want to find anything out about Michael Edley, eyeofthespirits.com for personal readings, for events, for his CD.
Yes, and we are streaming live on my Eye of the Spirits with Michael Edley Facebook page. So maybe some of you are watching on that page, and I'll give a shout out. Yes, Mary Amy's creating a new book, but she has some books on Amazon.
My books, if you would like to see them. And I also have a dream journal as well somewhere here, but this is a children's book. Great gift for kids, Earthly and the Gemstones. And I want to say thank you, everyone, for whoever's supporting us, and all of my friends that have joined us at events, and all of our listeners. Please, if you would like a psychic reading, we are willing to do psychic readings right here live, or reach out to me, maryamyofficial.com, or Michael Edley at eyeofthespirit.com. And thank you so much for everyone joining.
We'll talk to you soon.
And we'll be back next week. Thanks, Michael.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.